I'm Ryan Newman, and since I started with Indiana Donor Network and Driven to Save Lives, I found out that some people think that they can't be an organ donor. The truth is, anyone can sign up to be an organ donor.
Anyone?
Anyone?
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm sure. Anyone can sign up to be an organ donor. So don't count yourself out because somebody's counting on you. Go to driventosavelives.org and sign up today.
But my heart's going to you, Ryan.
Love that shirt.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back here to the National Racing Network and another afternoon, evening weekend of Spec Corvette Racing. Oh, I am so excited to have these guys back on the air with us. My name is Chris Graham with the National Racing Network. It is a pleasure to have you hanging out with us this weekend. And man, I'll tell you what, this is championship weekend at Chuckwalla Valley Raceway for the Spec Corvette Series. We are looking forward to this in a very, very big way. Man, so many storylines to talk about here over the course of the weekend. But the first of which that we have to talk about are the point standings entering this race weekend. And taking a look at the numbers, Oli Thordarson has a 21-point lead over Greg Nestor. The way the weekend's going to work will drastically shape the outcome of this championship season. Craig Dale sitting 55 points back. He's actually not out of contention yet, I don't think. We'll check the numbers and all, but the reality here is a two-man battle big time at the front of the field. But then you're only talking about 12 points separating Craig Dale from JC Maynett. JC, not in attendance this weekend. Mark LaCourte, not that far back either, only 15 points. A whole lot going on here this weekend. Let's take a look here and slide over to the onboard. Let's pick up John Wynn. We see him waving to us here, giving us the thumbs up as well. We are looking forward to this one. Tell you a little bit about Chuckwalla Valley Raceway. 2.68 miles, 17 corners. It's an interesting layout. I don't know that I would have built the racetrack this way because turn 2 is a perfect turn 1. But turn 1 is going to basically cycle you. It's kind of a quick, tight left hand into a big sweeping right hand corner. You got about 300 foot and then you hit turn 3. You could possibly get too wide through turn 3. So if you want to be aggressive on the start, not a bad way to go. Picking up the look there. There we go. Now we got the onboard audio from John Wynn's car. Not a bad way to at least try to make up a couple of spots at the start. The big key, though, is going to be exiting turn 3, keeping your pace up, setting up the pass into turn 4. Turn 4-5 is sort of like a double apex complex, except turn 4 almost flat, but a very long corner. If you can keep the momentum up, turn 5 tightens up in a big way. You can hold off the inside, maybe try to outbrake from the outside. There's a lot of room to work with there, potentially, in that 4-5 complex. If you want to be really brave, try a pass into turn 6. Again, kind of a double apex corner. I don't know that I would try it there, but you get through the 6-7 complex, a nearly 1,000-foot run up to turn 7 and 8, or out of turn 7 and into turn 8. You've got to be dumb to try the pass into turn 8. I'll just say it that way. Turn 8, Little bit of a kink to the right. Turn 9 is off camber, banked like 2-3 degrees away from the direction of the corner. You got to be crazy to try something into turn 8, because 8, 9, and 10 are one big complex. It's sort of like a set of S's, but not totally. Out of turn 10, now you're into the fun part of the racetrack. 1,300 feet long, 24 feet in elevation, over the crest, bang, down dive into turn 11, 3.5 degrees of banking into that corner, really pitch the car, get it to set, cycle through turn 12, and you're heading down 500 foot towards the bowl. 10 degrees of banking at turn number 13. I cannot wait to see the views out of these race cars heading into turn number 13. Another 800 foot or so, you get to turn 14. Not a terrible place if you want to try a pass, if you can get the momentum up. That's going to be the big one if you want to try the pass into turn 14. 14 and 15, again, kind of a complex-ish, about 400 feet separating those two corners, and a big run down into turn 16. It's a gutsy place to try the pass, but if you want to make the dive, oh man, we could see some excitement out of there. A couple of weeks ago at the Sonoma Raceway, the racing was insane. Josh Carroll was doing some, quite frankly, incredible things with his race car. Unfortunately, Josh will not be with us here this evening. We'll pull the graphics up for you, tell you a little bit about Josh Carroll. Out of Danville, California, one podium, good average finish. But he broke his wrist prior to the Sonoma race weekend, tried to race with it fixed. It just didn't happen. Unfortunately, required additional surgery heading into this weekend. So, Josh, we hope you're feeling well, but won't see Josh out on the racetrack here this weekend. Following on board with the birthday boy, Mr. John Wynn. We'll get the graphics up here on him as well, out of Norco, California. Second race meeting of the season, finishes a 4th, 5th, and 6th at Sonoma. The birthday boy, happy birthday, John. Hopefully you are enjoying the weekend out there at the racetrack. Give you a look at some of the other cameras that we are going to have for you this weekend as well. Let's flip over and go on board with your points leader. Oli Thordarson, my goodness, has this man been good this season. It's almost ridiculous, the numbers that Oli's putting up here out of Danville, California. Only leading by 21 points, as we mentioned early on in the broadcast here. 2 wins, but 10 podiums. An average finish of 3.1 in 15 starts this season. Oh, man. Oli has been spectacular. He's been good. He's been everything in between. He's, quite frankly, been a lot of fun to watch here. Taking a look at who else we can take a look at here. Let's pick up Mr. Kevin Jones. Going on board with Kevin here this weekend as well. No external cameras, by the way, at this racetrack out here at Chuckwalla Valley. We'll detail some of the other stuff that's going on here. But Kevin Jones, 9th in points, 134 back, average finish of 7.9 in 11 starts this season. 8 top 10 finishes, not a bad year for Kevin Jones here to this point. Also, let's see. Well, don't look like we have anybody else that's connected. Actually, I can't say that, but we've got them vertically instead of horizontally. Well, we'll show them to you anyway. Daniel Sepulveda checking in here as well. Thank you very much for letting us ride on board with you here, Daniel. Finished 7th in both races at Chuckwalla Valley back here in February. This was the 2nd round of the season. 2nd race weekend for Daniel this year. Kind of getting his feet wet in the Spec Corvette Series. Very, very glad to have him back out on the racetrack with us here this weekend. Hopefully, we're going to have a camera with Greg Nestor, also Kevin Michaels, Kevin Messig. We're also hoping to get cameras with here. But let's flip back over to the onboard with our points leader, Oli Thordarson. looks like it really could be a crazy weekend. Let's talk you through what we're going to see here. One, we have potentially iffy timing and scoring data. So we will do our best to keep you as informed as possible. But we'll see what that's going to look like here once we start to get the cars around the racetrack. They're already heading out for their pace lap. So we'll tell you the grid here in just a moment as well. They're going to run two 15-minute heats in the 30 minutes that they have allotted on the racetrack. That 30 minutes means, the two 15-minute races, they're going to average the finish of those two races, and that will determine what points you earn here for race number 1 this weekend. With not a ton separating 1 and 2 in the point standings, this could get a little bit crazy. But we'll do our best. We'll keep you informed, at least as best we can anyway. If we see good data from the timing and scoring system, then we'll get you all the information that we're going to be able to give you. Unfortunately, if the timing and scoring numbers get a little wonky on us here, we may have to kind of put the kibosh on things a little bit. But like I said, we're going to do our best to get you the best possible information. We may even go without the timing and scoring data. Unfortunately, that's just kind of what we're getting from their race control systems. So fields out on the racetrack right now, they will be led to green by Oli Thordarson. A monster lap for Oli. How about 1 minute 58.816, just a tick over 80 miles an hour for the average lap speed. Ridiculous. Donnie York going to line up on the outside of row number 1. John Wynn and Patrick Howe on row number 2. Row 3 is going to have Daniel Sepulveda and Mark LaCourte. Greg Nestor, Kevin Missig on row 4. Row 5 will have Kevin Jones and Tony Jimerson. Let's take a look here, and we'll go. Bring up the side-by-side here. You are looking at John Wynn on the left-hand side of your screen and Oli Thordarson over on the right-hand side. So many moments of anxiousness, anticipation. You're waiting. You're ready to go. It's go time at this point here. The Spec Corvettes, what they do is they split the two classes up, so everybody gets out onto the racetrack at the same time. The Spec Corvettes go off second. They get themselves basically parked, squared up, ready to go, build a big gap, and then they kind of take off. May have even been a standing start there. That was fantastic. A little bit of tire squealing. Oli Thordarson jumping out to the early lead. So again, John Wynn on the left-hand side of your screen. Let's slide back a little bit here. Pick up Patrick Howe. He has got a fantastic view out the front of him there. Oh, little bobble. Hold on to it, buddy. Howe going to be able to hold on. This is lap number 1. We are green and racing here at Chuckwalla Valley Speedway. Super Spec Cup cars also out on the racetrack. There you go, crossing down the hill. Then you're, oh man, they're starting to get side by side just ahead of Howe as he makes his way down towards the bowl. Man, love to see the cars pitching sideways like that. Trying to eliminate the body roll as much as you possibly can. Now you're down into the bowl. 10 degrees of banking. A lot of speed to be kept up here. Pickup John Wynn now running in the third position. Gosh, I love hearing these all-American V8s absolutely screaming. Oli Thordarson doing what he needs to do at this point. There's nobody out in front of him. That is exactly what Oli needs to be seeing right now. Picking up John Wynn, currently running in the third position. One lap in the books, and it looks like the timing and scoring data is doing us absolutely no favors. Oh man, great battle for the race lead though. Thordarson, I think that's Greg Nestor running second. Oh, a little bit off track for John Wynn. You see the dust and the dirt kicking up. He's going to give up the third position. Slide back here a little bit. Pick up Patrick Howe following in behind the 08 machine. Oh man, John Wynn has a monster handful of a race car out there right now. And again, on board here right now with Patrick Howe. Let's slide back up here, pick up John Wynn. Wynn giving up the third position just a moment or so ago. Still nose to tail for the race lead. Working lap number 2, already 9 minutes into the session. At the 15-minute mark, caution flag's going to fly. They're going to pack them back up and get ready to go again. No inverts, no changes. Everybody's going to line up as squared here for this one. Gosh, love the scenery in the background. Get over to Patrick Howe here for a second. My goodness. The scenery is stunning around Chuckwalla Valley Raceway. Little bit of a bobble out of the 08. Actually, I believe that's Greg Nestor. Interesting here, you could hear Howe trying to keep the RPMs up, following along with John Wynn. You can see his hands. Oh, battle for the lead, trying it to the outside through the bowl. Oh, that's so gutsy. All right, I'm going to bring Kyle Heyer down into the booth with me, at least if I can. Oh, big bobble for the 63. That's going to open up the door for John Wynn to have the peak inside. Oli Thordarson gives up the race lead. My goodness, all sorts of stuff going on. Kyle Heyer joining me in the booth now. Kyle, thank you for coming to hang out with us and bailing me out here, quite frankly. Insane racing already at the front here. Oli Thordarson has given up the race lead. John Wynn's got a handful. These Spec Corvettes are really a blast to watch.
They absolutely are a blast to watch, the Spec Corvette platform. Everybody's basically got the same thing, Chris. It puts on a fantastic race. I'm sure they're door-to-door right now.
Yeah, they are, quite frankly, all over the place. Let me get the camera up so you can see what the heck's going on. On board with John Wynn, sorry. On board with John Wynn. We can see him in the rearview mirror there. John currently running in the 4th position.
Facing the number 63 at the moment, right in tow here on the banked corners here of this racetrack. You can lean on that, Chris. Not a lot of aero on these Spec Corvette cars, but what they do have, the Spec Aero, certainly allows these cars to stick to the road.
Yeah, there's a whole lot going on here. Picking up Oli Thordarson, by the way. He's following in, and unfortunately timing and scoring is doing us absolutely no favors. Following Kevin Jones right now. Setting a new fastest lap of the race for himself. Oli Thordarson has the fastest lap at a 2:09.79, but that's the only two we can see in timing and scoring. It's been a bit of a mess all day here, so trying to call this race out of the car with no T&S data has been a little bit of a mess, but either way, V8 All-American iron, these things sound beautiful. They look fantastic out here on the racetrack. Your top 5 all nose to tail 13 minutes in.
I think we are under some kind of yellow here, looks like, Chris, as the field is slowing now. Potentially a reset here or a full course yellow of some kind.
I'm thinking this is the halfway break.
Yes.
Well, maybe. We just had one car spun off to the outside, but they were going to get a break at the 15-minute mark. So they should be able to get squared back up again. I will send over the timing and scoring link to you, by the way, here, Kyle, so you can see the same kind of mess that we're dealing with. But
much
yeah,
appreciated. Yeah, I didn't see any yellow flags from the corner station there, Chris, so I think this is going to be that halfway reset.
Yeah, I would tend to think so. And that's big because Oli Thordarson coming into the weekend with only 21 points to the good. He needs wins at this point in all 4 segments, we'll say. The 2 today, 2 tomorrow. Up at the front is good. Winning is better at this point.
Well, winning will cure all. If you're down in the point standings and need to gain some ground, having a good points day is one thing, Chris, but winning a race will fix everything. It'll add a trophy to the shelf. It'll jump you up as high as you possibly can in the points, but it's a lot harder than one would think. You really have to put in a lot of effort, and especially on these starts, you have to take advantage of any track position you can gain there. As you take a look at the standings, Thordarson at the top, the Alvaca Networks team, 225 points. Greg Nestor in behind, and Craig Dale in the Craig Fire Protection team, 55 points back from the lead. But Chris, it's been a tight fight all season long.
Yeah, these guys have been a lot of fun to watch throughout the course of the season. We picked up here in kind of the second half. You see them coming to a stop here out on the racetrack for the red flag. What's really been interesting to me is not just how good the drivers are, but quite frankly, how good the reliability of these race cars is. These are spec Corvettes. It's not like we're talking about, souped up race cars and high performance parts all over the place. You're kind of running the LS1 package under the hood. Not a lot of aero. It's easy to break a street car when you push it to the levels that these guys are, and they've really got the reliability dialed in well.
Yeah, that's one of the great things about the Corvette platform is it really stands out well in terms of racetrack performance. You set these things up with the spec parts and the spec tires and get these things out on the racetrack, and they will go forever. And you don't need them to go forever, Chris. You just need them to go the distance of the race. But all you're doing between races is nut and bolting and fueling it up. That's the beauty of these spec Corvettes.
Yeah, that's the fun part of this one here. We'll pull the data back up here on John Wynn, and that's who we are currently riding on board with. We'll take you back through everybody that we have here. Second race meeting of the season for John. Finished 4th, 5th, and 6th. It's his birthday weekend. He wants a podium here, that's for sure. Always good to ring in the birthday that way.
Yeah, certainly. No better birthday present than Victory Lane. Cars are rolling again here, Chris, which means we're getting ready to restart and race for our second half of the event here. And race starts are always my favorite, Chris, because you have that run down to the first corner, getting through the gears, getting on the brakes, heel toe downshifting. It all comes down to driver skill here on this initial restart.
Yeah, and especially at this place, with how tight the turn 1-2 complex is, it can really be an adventure trying to get through there if you're trying to make the pass.
And of course, 380 horsepower cap in this LS engine combination. Both C5 coupes and hatches are allowed. Of course, this is a national race series that started in SoCal and has grown to several other regions. But Chris, it is a successful format that is playing out here this weekend. Now with the championship points thrown in the mix as well, it adds another dynamic here to this Spec Corvette Championship.
Yeah, that's the fun part. We see the other regions that are growing. The NOLA region is running now at 3 or 4 racetracks this season. There's a region in Florida. There's a region in the Northeast, in the central part of the country. This platform is really growing. The cars are abundant and available. It really makes it a fun series to watch grow.
And one of my favorite things is because the cars are all so similar and they're all spec, if your buddy's having a problem, you can share parts and share knowledge on how to go fast. It's just one of the great things about having a spec series is everybody can help each other, and everybody does help each other.
Yeah, that's the cool part. It's almost like the dirt racing world in that respect. Somebody, you break a part and you're in scavenging trailers looking for a part from somewhere. We see a lot of that in the Spec Corvette series. As the green flag goes back in the air, we are screaming down towards turn 1.
And good launch by the 73 to the inside. Left-hander is the first one. Thordarson, though, has to tuck in behind as they sweep back to the right as we're on board with the third place bar. And now they're all in line here, Chris. It's all about getting the exit to the back straightaway.
Yeah, get this set up here, because if you want to drive the dive bomb into turn number 4, you're going to have to be brave if you want to do it. It's a long sequence of corners, but it sets up tough into turn 6, which narrows the entire way in.
Yeah, Thordarson is all on top of the 73 right now. Out to driver's left, offsetting, getting out of the mirrors of the leader, trying to make him make a mistake. Got a car length between them as they roll through the right-hander here. And it's so close between those top two, but Thordarson being left a little bit in the dust as they head to the back stretch.
Yeah, Mark LaCourte getting a great drive off the corner there, heading down towards turn 8. This is where I said you have to be dumb to try it, because right here, snap the car back to the right, it goes off camber, you can hear the tires just begging for mercy. Loop it back through turn 10. Here's now where I think we see Oli Thordarson maybe make the move on Mark LaCourte. Turn 8 is a great spot if you want to try it.
Into turn 8. Then back to the left at turn 9, a little chicane complex here. Turn 10 coming up. This is turn 13, rather. Yep,
into turn 13. Into the bowl, 10 degrees of banking. It doesn't sound like a lot much, but good Lord, when you see the cars going through it, it's like it's pretty close to doing turn 1 at Pocono.
Yeah, 10 degrees is quite a bit of banking. Most road courses have very little, maybe a degree, maybe 3 to 5. Places like Watkins Glen have up to 9, but 10 degrees is a lot of banking here at Chuckwalla. And on board with Thordarson, big counter steer correction there to the 73. LaCourte track out wide to apex late. This is great driving on board here, Chris.
Oh, this is fantastic. Watching Oli, one of the best in the business, and something that really impresses me about Oli, watching him on the racetrack, he is so smooth all the time. Even when there's a mistake or a counter steer that has to be made, it's just very smooth. The wheel's not herky-jerky. It just kind of gets into where it needs to be, and he really feels his way through the corner.
Really easy to get the right or the rear tires lit up underneath the 400 horsepower these cars make. Thordarson continuing to try to reel in that 73 of LaCourte, but it looks like he's losing a little bit of ground. That 73 is just putting distance on him, Chris. Great driving by LaCourte.
Yeah, this is not necessarily surprising out of Mark LaCourte here today. Entering the weekend, taking a look at some of the data that we put together. LaCourte was 11 top 10 finishes on the season, 10 of those being podiums, 5 wins. Well, it's soon to be 6 if he keeps this up, as we're about a third of the way through race number 2 here. Just impressive what we're seeing out of Mark LaCourte.
Driving off into the sun. One of the unique factors here at Chuckwalla is there's really no scenery around in terms of trees or trackside objects. You've got that sun bearing down on you. That might be a little easier for us to look at on the camera, but certainly in the eyes of Thordarson as he tries to reel in LaCourte up front.
Yeah, it's pretty brutal, quite frankly. Looking at some of the overhead pictures and all, there's nothing. You're out in the middle of the California desert. The mountains look beautiful in the background, but you don't have the separation stuff. The trees, the buildings, it can really throw off your depth perception, and it can make this place tough to drive.
Certainly is not making it easier. LaCourte again trying to keep his car as far away from Thordarson as possible here, but back up onto the front straight, nipping that curb at the exit of 17, getting up into triple-digit speeds here. You see about 120 on the dash, maybe 130 for a moment onto the brakes into turn 1 and 2. But Thordarson, you see that the differential there on the dash, kind of matching his lap times, but he needs to gain a little bit more to catch that 73.
Yeah, you need to gain a little bit, and at this point you're starting to hit the point of I need to gain a lot. We're at the halfway point here, 7 minutes 50 seconds down in this one. If you're Oli Thordarson, you're trying to protect a championship lead, second is plenty good on the day.
Yeah, certainly don't want to throw away a second place run. Anytime you can have a run like this, you're going to take advantage of it. We see the green on the dash there for Thordarson. He's making up some time. The 73 is not getting much closer, which tells you LaCourte doing the same.
Yeah, they're both hustling their way around this racetrack. 2 minutes, .156, the last lap time for Oli Thordarson. It was his best lap of the race. Pretty crazy that you're thinking that these guys were doing 158s in qualifying a couple hours ago. It goes to show even how things like the sun beating down on the racetrack, it warms the place up. The tarmac is hotter. The tires may not grip as well. Those things all come into play here, even running a DOT spec tire.
Into turn 13, the bull. Thordarson keeping tight to the inside curb there and launching off. I love banked corners, Chris, because you can lean on them with all the mechanical grip. You don't need a ton of aero to stick to the road there when the track helps you corner around. But for Thordarson, I think he'd like a little more banking to try to carry some more speed to catch LaCourte. At this time, he's kind of keeping that gap steady but not losing or gaining.
Yeah, it's not, at this point, I would say it's not insurmountable. But you're talking about being down to 5 minutes left to go. I don't know that Oli Thordarson's trying to push a ton. I mean, he's up a quarter of a second on his personal lap, down to a 1:59.91 on his dash. And incidentally, exact same lap time, almost to the 100th for Mark LaCourte that time by.
And some good times tripping in behind them as well. But Thordarson at a 1:59.902 on the timing. That was his personal best of the session, Chris. So he's putting in the work. You see the dash still going negative. That's a good thing. He's still making up ground on his previous best. But as long as LaCourte is doing the same, it's going to be a futile effort, I fear.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think it's one of those where discretion may be the better part of valor in this one. No need to push, no need to be crazy. Hold on, get your laps in today and tomorrow, and Oli Thordarson can claim a Spec Corvette Series regional championship. Of note, Patrick Howe is out of the race. Unfortunately, we see the hood up on his machine from his onboard camera. We'll slide back here and pick up Kevin Jones as well. We haven't talked a ton about Kevin yet, but we want to make sure we get at least all the drivers that are nice enough to put a camera inside the car here. We'll get them up. Following along, continuing to follow with Oli Thordarson. The gap is not closing all that much. Good run today so far for Kevin Jones. Also need to pick up, let's see, Daniel Sepulveda as well. Sepulveda running a little bit back in traffic here, but decent battle going on back in the pack here. That's one of the other things I love, Kyle, about the Spec Corvette Series is the fact that you kind of end up with different groups of drivers. There's the guys at the front that are running and battling hard. The mid-pack battles hard. Even the guys at the back of the pack are fighting hard.
Yeah, you get the depth of competition because of this spec platform. It's not something you necessarily get in multi-make, multi-model series because there could be such differences in how people build their cars. Not here. Everyone should have the same stuff. means that you're going to find yourself in groups of battles, as we see on board right now, down the front straightaway. What is that, 2 car lengths between these two drivers at 120? This is thrilling stuff. A little bit of a bobble here on the outside, turning into 1, and trying to carry some speed here at the exit of 2 and 3.
Yeah, that's the big one. Trying to get through 2 to set up turn 3 is huge, because this is one of those short straights that you maybe have a chance to try the dive bomb a little bit. We see that almost a little bit of contact just up ahead of Daniel Sepulveda here.
Oh, they're almost touching bumpers. They continue to hound each other. Big slide from the white pet out in front, but the 2 red in behind is trying to just keep hounding and keeping pressure on the cars in front. Chris, the easiest way to pass a car is make them make a mistake, and right now they're keeping the pressure on, keeping them pop that cork off the bottle.
Yeah, it's a fine line, because you go from, you're trying to apply pressure, and at the same time, if you think you're faster, it's a little bit frustrating. Like, I know I'm quicker than this guy, I just have to find a way around him, and if he runs a little wide, makes the car as wide as he can, that can be really tough.
One of the other things I always watch on these cars is the braking. When the ABS engages in these cars, you can kind of tell that the car dives on the nose a little bit more. Sometimes you'd like to keep the car out of ABS to just kind of balance on the edge and get maximum braking performance. But this line of cars battling into turn 13 here, just feet between them.
Oh my goodness, it is so cool watching these guys dive into the banking like that. The other interesting thing about Chuckwalla here is that the banking kind of falls off into the straightaway. Some places, especially some of the bigger ovals, it kind of spits you out and up. It kind of unloads the car. Here, it keeps the car loaded on corner exit, which makes it a little bit more driver friendly, allows you to get the throttle down sooner.
Yeah, it'll also create a little bit of understeer potentially if you get in the throttle just a little bit too early. So that's a balancing act, as always, exiting any corner, but especially on bank corners when the track flattens out like that. Look at this battle into turn 1 and 2. They're all stacked up behind and just trying to find a way around.
John Wynn is thrilled behind the wheel of his machine, as I think we've seen the checkered flag for today.
It looks
Oli
like
Thordarson backing down.
Throwing the peace sign up. They really had a good time there, you can tell. Everybody congratulating each other on a fun race there, Chris. What a blast.
Yeah, it's exciting to watch, because you're looking at these guys going, these are not pros. This is not the guys that are every day of the week practicing, training, doing race cars for a living. This is you and me. They just happen to have enough cash to put into a Spec Corvette, which quite frankly isn't all that much money either, if you look at the platform. It's fun, man. These guys run a clean race. They run hard. They have a blast.
Yeah, as far as affordability goes, the performance per dollar you're getting in a Spec Corvette and organized competition to boot, what a value that is. But for these drivers, I think the value is all the smiles on the faces after they get out of the car. You know these guys are going to have a fun night tonight and plan for tomorrow.
I was going to say that when you're all sitting around the fire out there at the campground or wherever it is, and you're drinking a couple of beers and you're just being yes in your way about, hey, here's what we did today. The car was junk. It was crap. Man, that was fun. I can't wait to do it again.
That's the beauty of it. Spec Corvette. Man, what a show it has been. And unfortunately for the timing, we didn't really get an opportunity to dive too deep into those other battles. But Chris, I bet you tomorrow they're going to be just as good and just as deep.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. We've actually been talking with the organizers at the racetrack about how we can get data a little bit more efficiently than even what their web interface and that kind of stuff gives us. But man alive, as always, there is nothing better than a screaming V8, tires squealing. Oh, I absolutely love every bit of it. I am so excited that we get to call these Spec Corvette races.
V8 therapy, Chris. That's one of my favorite things about racing.
That is absolutely correct. Quite frankly, Oli Thordarson did what he needed to do. We'll switch back to Oli's on board as they head into pit lane here. He took care of business today. Up by 21 points, finished second in both races, so that'll get him a second place finish overall on the day. Tomorrow is a matter of show up, take the victory lap, and enjoy every bit of it.
Yeah, that was, again, half the job is keeping the car on the road, and Thordarson did just that. It wasn't a win. That'll be LaCourte to celebrate, but I think he put himself in position to do what he needs to do to keep his championship weekend going.
Yeah, that's going to be the big part. It's going to be interesting to watch here what we see tomorrow, because some of these guys they're shooting for the win, and that's not much else. And there's other guys that are going to kind of run the points and play the game and do their thing. But ultimately, it quite frankly sounds like a fun weekend.
I think so. And what weekend with Spec Corvette isn't fun, Chris? It's been a blast to watch this one. Another look at Chuckwalla Valley Raceway. But tomorrow we have some more racing for Spec Corvette presented by Nankang Tires. It's just been a fun day, and more left on the horizon.
Yeah, we're looking forward to all of that coming up here. And but with that, I think it's time for us to get the heck on out of here. We've got a whole bunch more coming up here on the National Racing Network tomorrow with the Spec Corvette Series. A lot of the iRacing stuff is off next weekend. But with that, for Kyle Heyer, everybody here at NRN that makes these shows happen, my name is Chris Graham. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. We will talk to you all soon. Have a good night, everybody.
Chris, can you hear me?
I thought I overheated.
Really? Ah, shit.
It was a triple X, which I guess is a faulty sensor. It didn't actually overheat.
Yeah. Did the gauge pin? Yeah. Fuck, that was great. Tony almost got me.
I don't remember shit. I remember hauling ass at the beginning, and then the car ahead of me slowed down, so I slowed down, and everybody went, wow, 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 wow.
Did you see Tony almost get me at the end? Holy shit. Hey, I got a bumper on him, I think. Maybe. Holy shit.
He was gunning for you.
Yeah, he had it. He had it, man. Holy hell. Can you hear me? Hey, can you guys hear me? This is John. Are we live or we're done? All right, cool. That second race. You guys couldn't see it, but I had two people up my ass the entire time.